because it's time for a keynote now. Welcome back to all participants here. I'm pleased to announce Alistair. Alistair, hi, nice to meet you. How are you?
Nice to meet you. And we just make sure that my name is pronounced Cockburn in the good Scottish way.
You could be right. Yes, Alistair Cockburn is here speaking as a keynote speaker. He was named as one of the 42 greatest software professionals of all time for his work on agile development and use cases and object-oriented design. I'm sorry to read my notes for these. He's a co-author of Agile Manifesto, and it's an honor for me to announce you, to give you now the stage. So the stage is yours. We are very interested in your keynote, the Heart of Agile for organizations.
Thank you very much. I am going to switch and do the magic screen share business. So bear with me just a split second here while we do some Zoom things. So now you should see my screen. And then I hide the floating controls and shrink that, and we're off to the races. So good. Hello, everybody. And my name is pronounced Cockburn, as though the CK were not there. It's a Scottish name, and that's where it comes from. And yeah, I started down this particular path exactly 30 years ago in 1991, I was working for the IBM Forschungslabor in Rüschlikon in Switzerland, which is why I speak Swiss German still, and a little bit of German. And I wanted to come back to the United States in 1991, and I got a job with the then new IBM consulting group, so a real consulting group. And they needed a methodology for the Smalltalk and C++ projects that they were encountering in 1991. Java wasn't around yet. And I knew nothing about methodology. My boss said, well, why don't you interview some teams and find out what works and what doesn't work? And so she gave me unlimited airplane tickets to go all over the world. And I started interviewing teams and debriefing. And it became very clear very quickly that those that were following a process were not delivering software, like almost to like 100%. I couldn't find a project that was following any process and was delivering software. All of the ones that were actually delivering software were doing something that we couldn't, there were no words for it. There were just some people in a room, and they talked together, and they talked to the customers and users, and they put out stuff in those days, every 2 months was considered quite quick, right? Every 2 months of something. And so that started me on this journey of trying to find out why this was working when we had no words for it. In 1994-95, I was on a large fixed price, fixed time, fixed scope project with IBM. And we arranged to have a very non-process process, a very minimal process. A lot of conversations. We copied these things that I had been seeing the other people doing. We delivered every 3 months. We had user viewings. We didn't do sprints, but we had user viewings. We had feedback. And we delivered a little over cost, but we delivered on time, happy customers, all the rest. So that was formative to me. And all through the 90s, I was trying to put words onto why does this work? What is happening that allows this to work? And the punchline, to jump forward, over basically 30 years, is you would take a group of people and you have them merge their brains. They do a mind meld. And then they have to deliver something to the real world and get information about what they did wrong. Stuff is always going wrong. The big thing is find out what you did wrong early and have a chance to fix it. So you do a mind meld, You put things out, you get some feedback, and then you discuss how to make things better, how to make the collaboration go better, how to make the delivery go better, how to make everything go better. So those are the three things that are really at the anchor of everything. Now, about the same time, the Scrum guys, Jeff Sutherland, Ken Schwaber, were articulating Scrum and using it on projects. And not much later, the extreme programming guys were doing something similar and getting certain results. And in Australia, the feature-driven development guys were doing something similar and getting results. And in Holland and England, the SDM people were doing something similar and getting results. So in the late 90s, there were a set of people who didn't have perfect words, but there was this commonality. So in 2001, Bob Martin had the idea that we should write a manifesto. He said, I think there's something in common here, and I think we should write a manifesto and just make it a big boat that we can all fit in, and then just make everybody just pulls along. So that's what happened in 2001. Now, from 2001 till 2015, 14, 15, something, people started working with these ideas, this agile stuff, and they just made it more complicated and more complicated and more complicated. And in 2014, some people I trusted said that they had a 90-page booklet of terms and vocabularies and concepts that they had to give to their clients so the clients could learn how to talk to them. And I said, that's a nonsense. There's something wrong. Like, these are smart people, they know what they're doing. But there's something wrong if they need a 90-page dictionary to talk with their clients. And so I talked about then for the next year, the essence of Agile, trying to get to the bottom of it. And then in the end, in 2015, I was challenged to literally to put it all together. And in 2015, I said, you really only need 4 words. And the 4 words are the ones you see there: collaborate, deliver, reflect, improve. You don't need anything else. That's sufficient to do the job, whatever you want. Everything else is invented. Just focus on that. And so that's what I'm going to talk to you about now. And, you know, in a sense, if you just have these 4 words, you're done. But there's a lot behind each word. So I'll give you a little tour of all of the things that are behind. Now, the first thing I want to do is to come back now and say, what's Agile? Anyway, what is it? It's not in software anymore. It's in organizations. It's in governments. It's in nonprofits. It's all over the place. So what is Agile anyway? And I looked at the dictionary, and the dictionary definition is nothing more or less than this: the ability to move, change direction quickly and with ease. And obviously we knew that when we chose the word Agile, right? We all spoke English. That's what Agile means. It's fine. We liked it. We knew that. That's all that. But my point is that I don't need the manifesto anymore. All I need is, there's this thing, the ability to move and change direction quickly and with ease. And why is it useful? Why is it interesting these days? The world is changing so fast. There's this acronym people throw around called VUCA. That stands for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And that's the world today. If there was ever a time when it would have been possible to predict 2 years in advance what the world would need from your system or your organization, that time isn't now. We're long past that. We all know from COVID, right? Everything is changing. Wars, economies, crashes, stock market, diseases, pandemics, right? You can't plan 2 years in advance. So because the world is VUCA and changing so fast, everybody, every company, every organization, every department, every product team, every initiative, every person needs to get better. It's not a binary. You don't just become agile. You become better at this thing, the ability to move and change direction quickly and with ease. So that's Agile. What is Agile? Why do we care? And then I have to put in this slide right here, because Unfortunately, Jeff Sutherland, who knows everything and founded Scrum, he wrote this book and he called it The Art of Doing Twice the Work in Half the Time. And the problem is that this phrase is poisonous. The title sells the book. Executives who are in a hurry love the concept of doing twice the work in half the time. And there you see the cartoon from Dilbert, from 2005, in fact. And Dilbert says, agile programming doesn't just mean doing more work with fewer people, AKA twice the work in half the time. And the boss says, find me some words that do mean that and ask again. So the executives, many executives are really looking for this thing that means twice the work in half the time. But that's not what Agile gives you. The executives are not going to get that. And employees around the world are terrified because their bosses show up and say, great, you're now going to do twice the work in half the time. But people are already working as fast as they can. They can't do twice the work in half the time. That's not what we're after. That's not what we're getting. The execs will not get that. Nobody is going to speak faster. Nobody's going to think faster. Nobody's going to type faster. Agile means more value from the same work or the same amount of work. We've learned how. We've had 30 years now of practicing different techniques, and we've learned how to get more value from the same amount of effort. And that's magical and that's wonderful. It's not twice the work in half the time. So if you ever see the phrase twice the work in half the time, just say no. Nobody's working faster. We've learned how to get more value from the same work. And I'll show you that in this talk over here. Now, the problem that we need to address here at the current moment is if everybody needs to get this ability to move and change directions quickly and with ease, then everybody has to learn this thing, some of these things. And the Agile frameworks are just too complicated. Even Scrum, which I teach, has got 104 learning objectives in the 2-day Scrum class. My friends have a 90-page dictionary of words and terms and ceremonies and things. It's too complicated. And most of them are oriented towards software, and if not software, products. But we're using these days in installing water in villages, changing health programs, government work, organization, transformation, things that have got nothing to do with products or with software. So we are looking for something that is simpler, more general, more powerful, and easier for just anybody to enter into. We're looking for a simpler entry point. And that's why I have these 4 words. These 4 words are pretty ordinary. Everybody knows how to collaborate. They might not want to, but they know how. There's no mystery. Delivery in every separate industry or initiative, delivery looks different, but you should have on your team people who are specialized in delivery in whatever the industry is. Now, reflect is the one place that people aren't practiced at. So it's not hard. You just have to practice it and think about it and then improve, and we'll talk about it. So these 4 words are pretty easy. They're pretty normal. I make up little stickers and I put them in places, cafeterias, hospitals. It doesn't have my name on it. It doesn't have any trademark. It just is 4 words. And anybody can pick it up and say, oh, that's interesting, and then think about it. It's kind of like a mantra. So I call this the Heart of Agile, the Heart of Agile. And it's just, I want to say, in the US Air Force, they have so many planes that they're training the pilots on. They can't train all of the pilots in all of the airplanes. It's a problem. So they decided, and they came up with this phrase, brilliance in the basics, that every pilot should be able to do certain basic maneuvers in any airplane that they ever step into. Brilliance in the basics. And that's a perfect phrase for these 4 words, because you just get better at collaboration forever, forever, forever. You get better at your deliveries forever, forever, forever. You learn to reflect and you change and you adopt and you grow in your ability to reflect. and same with improve. Every question you ask me, I'll anchor it in one of these four words. You're either improving the collaboration, delivery with feedback, and we'll get there. So that's these 4 words and why it's called the Heart of Agile. There's a lot behind it, but you don't need anything more. Just spend your time living in these 4 words and basically good things will happen. Now, everybody thinks that stuff is a process or it's a framework. Nobody knows what a framework is, but a framework is a fancy process thing. And we want to get away from that. So my partner in the Heart of Agile, Sola Pinter, who lives in Belgium, and you guys should look her up because she's so close to you, came up with the metaphor or the image of a compass. And the point about a compass is it gets us away from process language completely. Because when you have a compass, you don't go north and south and east and west. You say, what direction, where would I like to go? And according to this compass, which direction shall I go in next? So the Heart of Agile is a compass to decide in which direction to advance the conversations. So some days you'll pick up the collaborate theme and you'll improve there. Some days you'll go, look, we need to improve the deliver theme. And some days you go, hey, you know, we haven't stopped and reflected. Let's just pause here, right? And see what's going on. So this is nice. This gets us away from process language, which is very important. Now I'll open this up, but here's a lovely slide if you want to take a screen snapshot. It's a kind of a table of contents of some of the conversations you would have. So if you're going to improve collaboration, you somehow have to establish trust. Well, trust is a big topic. You need to lower fear, increase trust, increase safety, psychological safety, amicability. There's a lot of stuff needed culturally, and you'll be needing to change the culture, which is why we don't put these agile transformations on a timesheet, because we're looking for changing the culture in an organization. And that's not something you can really put on a task list, you know, for 3 weeks, from March, 1st to March 21st, we'll work on this. No, culture is an ongoing shift, which is why transformation is not a good word, because there's no there. You just try to get more effective, right? And you have to talk about rewards. You have to talk about executive bonuses. Are the executives being rewarded in a competitive manner that stops them from collaborating? What about employee evaluations at the end of the year? Are they evaluated on the quality of their collaboration, or are their evaluations based on solo work? So you need to embed, right, the rewards and incentives for collaboration right into the reward structures of the organization. And I'll go through all of these. Inside of Deliver, we've got the internal flow, Kanban, Deliver for value, that's financial models, Deliver for learning, that's modern product management. Reflect, I put in there separately because I want people to literally stop, literally pause for a bit of time. Don't work on the product, work only on the team and the quality of the collaboration inside the team, the quality of the community, all of that stuff. So reflect is in there. It means pause for a bit, work on these other things, not on the product, and then we improve everything. And as you see, we look for baby steps. We're not big on there will be times maybe you make a major change, but by and large, we're looking for the baby steps. So those are the conversations to have, and we can expand this out. And what we've learned is you can make this as complicated as you like. Every topic in the world, fits into this mind map somehow. So it's not interesting to try to map out everything because everything in the world is in there. What's interesting is to pick out themes, and this is why it's conversations. And you have a discussion. You say, what's the conversation? What's the theme that's useful to us at this moment? Different companies, different cultures, different teams. We'll pick different themes for different moments in time. So I'm going to walk through some of these. The biggest one, the most different, and it's the biggest shift to make, is that an organization is operating not on work artifacts, it's operating on decisions. People pass each other decisions in a network flow with feedback, and your whole organization is passing decisions around. And I'm going to spend a bit of time on that because that's fundamental to taking these ideas of Agile out of software development into any initiative at all. So the first thing to get is that whatever we deliver, I don't care if it's a press release or a product, the thing we deliver is the result, is the instantiation of all of the decisions that went into making it. Okay, and we'll play on this some more. So the organization, we have an organization, it's useful to think of it as a giant brain. And in this giant brain, each person is a neuron in the brain, and the neurons are sending messages to each other, and the people are going away on vacation, and they come back from vacation, and the brain's been moving. So people are all making decisions. They need each other to make a good decision. They pass the decisions on to other people. Now, here's the thing. The data that I found from it was a report about nuclear, a nuclear facility, a nuclear power plant, and they categorize every mistake they ever make, and they do a root cause analysis and taxonomy, and they found that in the category of decision making, that people make errors in 1 in every 5. 1 in every 5. Now it turns out that's not surprising. 1 in every 5 is 20%. And the data in the literature says that 20% of requirements in most software products are not used. So those were errors. Those were things that people thought someone would need and they didn't need. You wasted all the time to build it. It was wrong. You were wrong. And you were wrong at the beginning. This is the important part. The initial request that said we should make a system that does this, probably 20% of those are incorrect in some way and possibly not going to get used. And then the entire organization believes that's all true, and they spend all this time and all this money and all this energy, and then they deliver it, and then guess what? 20% is not used. So it doesn't matter if you say 1 in 5, 1 in 10. You won't get to 20 decisions in a row without a mistake. So I'll just say 1 in 10, it doesn't matter. So we're going to look at the implications of the fact that an organization is a brain. Everybody's passing decisions to each other, and people make decisions, errors, at the level of 1 in 5 or 10. That's all we need, and then everything comes out. So we'll talk about internal flow, learn early, learn often, and I think for time reasons, I'll skip deliver for early revenue. That's a financial conversation, and it's just stage delivery. It's been written about for 20 years or more. Okay. So here we are, here's a graph. And on the bottom axis, I have time. And on the vertical axis, I have knowledge, how much we know about what's going on. And I'm gonna make this graph for, in old school, it would be like waterfall or Big Bang delivery, but typically for any project, the natural intuition of anybody who starts a project is you'll do a bunch of work and then you deliver everything at the end. Okay, not incremental delivery, just do all the work, think very hard, deliver it at the end. And I want to show you what happens here. So what happens is, cost goes up, they're spending money. In this early part, for most of the project, there's no knowledge gain because everybody's inside their heads, they're working at their desks. There's no feedback. They can't tell which of the decisions are incorrect. There's no feedback. So what happens is at the very last moment, they put it on the market, whether it's a big integration of the technical stuff or not, they put it on the market, and those 20% that were incorrect all suddenly become visible. So the knowledge grows at the end. You only find out the bad news at the very end when it's too late to fix it. So we don't like that. So what do we do about that? as we shift over, and I never say fail early, fail often. I say learn early, learn often. We have the same graph, right? There's the same starting point. But what we're going to do now is little baby deliveries, probe the market, make a sample, make a prototype, talk to a user, make a small piece of the system, deploy it to one person, try it out in a test case, and get information. We're trying to find our mistakes early. That little L shape, that's the oops, that's the aha. And then so we want to stage our learning through carefully constructed questions and use of feedback. What do they want? How's our technology? How well do the people get along on the team? How much is this going to cost? What's the actual schedule? All of these things we don't know at the beginning. So we get a knowledge acquisition curve that in a perfect world looks like this. Now you usually there's some surprises that come at the end, usually. And we're learning about 4 things. We're learning about the business. What's the business model? What should we build? How do the people like it? What do they want? How do they use it? All the technical stuff. Is our technical architecture correct? Does it scale? Does it fit? Do the pieces fit? Whatever. Social learning. Did we hire the right people? Do they know how to talk to each other and exchange information in a harmonious way? So a lot of the social learning is literally helping people to learn to, guess what? To trust each other, to communicate. There's a lot of learning there. And finally, cost and schedule. How long is this really going to take, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what we're going to get. So we've got, in a sense, they're not phases, but we have at the beginning an emphasis on learning and risk reduction, so that later on we can hone in on the key pieces that are most useful and make them the most correct with the least risk for the project. So that's how we make use of this idea that the organization is a giant brain, people making decisions, and they make a lot of errors. We do this early feedback stuff in order to catch the errors as early as possible, so we can deliver the least that we can the soonest. So this is the graph that explains more value from the same work. Okay, this is the one right there. This is how you get more value. Nobody works faster. You just structure your feedback and you make those changes in, and then you can steer. The world is VUCA. We want to be able to change directions. This is how you do it. Right. Good. Here's just an internal picture. It's kind of interesting. This connects to lean manufacturing, and interesting and surprisingly, if we don't think about work product flow, there's this very strange similarity between a manufacturing flow line, like literally Toyota building cars, and an organization doing purely mental work. And that is that the flow of decisions between people, you're waiting for the executive vice president to decide which is the strategic partner to do marketing with or something. That's a decision, right? In that first picture, I showed you the waterfall, a big bang. And in most organizations, they send piles of decisions to each people. And if you look at this, this looks like a very badly designed highway system with lots of cars jammed up in all kinds of places. If you look at it as a manufacturing flow line, it looks like a factory with inventory stacked up, and everything goes slowly. It takes forever for something to get from the left of this picture to the right of this picture. So if we literally borrow from Toyota, from Lean, you have small batches, single piece flow, small requirements, take it, build it, fix it, send it out, get information, send it back to the front, correct it. Then you actually, people are happier, the flow is quicker, you respond to change quicker, right? All the good things that we're after. So that's a surprising connection between manufacturing and social mental work. And this part's all mathematics, it all works. If there's any mathematicians in the crowd, just chase that down. It's cool. Getting off of delivery, the next big topic, especially for organization, is going to be this thing around culture. And I already warmed you up to the topic a little bit. This is a picture from a friend, a colleague called Neil Nicolaisen, lives in Utah. He's Danish by origin. And his contribution, he's a CIO, COO, been for decades. And his summary of what he attempted to do in his companies and his organizations is he said, people start from a place where there's not very much trust and they don't have ownership of their decisions and their work. They're just told what to do. This is a command and control, but it doesn't provide creativity, energy, and innovation, which is what we're wanting. If you want energy and innovation, you need to have high levels of trust and high levels of ownership everywhere. And so we're trying to move organizations from command and control organizations to energy and innovation type organization. And here I have these two words, autocratic leadership and guest leadership. And I'm going to link those now to some sociology theory that comes from the 1970s. A sociologist at MIT created this phrase. He said, theory X. Now, what he meant by theory X, because he was going to contrast it with theory Y. Theory X was a management mindset that came from the Industrial Revolution, was very popular, it was very standard in the early 20th century, late 1800s, up through about 1960, absolutely standard. Literally, the view of management was workers are lazy and stupid. Management has to tell and force them what to do. And so all of the management models were based on this, Taylorism, et cetera, et cetera. Now, if you look at this, I could imagine if I was like shoveling coal, right? And my boss came up behind me and yelled, faster, faster, right? Then I would like adrenaline, I twitch and I go faster. So physical work, simple physical work could improve under stress, right? You just yell at people and they go faster. But that's not true with mental work. So what this guy around 1970 or something, he was noticing already a change in management style. So he was documenting a change in management style that suits mental creative work, where the management assumes that workers are actually, they're motivated, they're as smart as they need to be for their jobs. So they don't have to be told everything. And in fact, they shouldn't be yelled at. Management should be sharing the direction, and then the workers should be sharing their insights, right? So if you're doing some creative work, I don't care what it is, you're doing some creative work, you're deep in your thoughts, you're like this, and your boss comes up behind you and yells, faster, faster. Do you go faster? No, you don't go faster, you stop, right? The brain freezes, right? So this force, push, yelling, pressure, stress, model of management doesn't work for creative mental work. So this theory X, theory Y, right? So you could call it a force model, a push model, a controlling model. What we're after is one where the people get to choose, they pull work toward themselves, they're permitted to do things, right? And then they choose what it is they're permitted to do, and so on. Now, here's where it kind of gets interesting and surprising for a moment. If we look at our organization, I was thinking about this and I said, okay, if we have a big public organization, if it's a private company, maybe you have a theory Y kind of a generous owner of the company and they can do theory Y and they don't care about the stock market. But if you have a public company, the stockholders are merciless. They're nasty. They don't care if everybody gets sick in the company as long as the dividends go up and stuff. Wall Street and stockholders are doing, guess what? Theory X, force, control, and dominate. And who are they pushing that on? They're pushing that on the CEO, the board of directors, and the top executives. So the top executives are receiving this pressure from the stock market. Now down below in that yellow section, we want, guess what? Theory Y, choosing, permission, free. We want that. that implies that somewhere in the middle, some manager is acting as an umbrella. And we've heard these phrases, my boss provides a heat shield. We have these metaphors in these languages. I chose to use umbrella here because it's like raining on top. And we've got this, like nice, pleasant, dry space underneath. So somebody has to act as the push to pull umbrella. And that's one of the actions that a manager does inside of one of these organizations. So if any of you have a wonderful working environment, up above you somewhere is a manager who's taking the pressure and protecting you from that. And you should find them and thank them. Okay. Good. Now, the last thing I want to say about collaboration, just that I did a study back in like 2006, 8, 9 timeframe. What actually improves collaboration at the moment-to-moment level. Did some decoding, and we have these things we call, I wrote a paper about it, and nobody reads the paper. So I made this deck of cards that you can buy from us. We have them not in German. We have them in English, French, and Spanish at the moment. If any of you wants to help us translate these into German, then we'll make them in German. There are things you can do on a moment-to-moment level that will increase, I would call it, the inclination to collaborate. Because collaboration you can't force, that people have to want. But you just create an environment where people feel a bit more like maybe they'll collaborate, right? They'll offer up an idea. So we've got these 5 different sort of categories or suits or colors, lifting other people, getting results, increasing safety, adding energy, and then finally, personally for yourself, lifting yourself. And we have very specific, there I think about 16 cards, 5, 5, 5, 4, 4, 4, 3, something like that. I don't know how many there are in each one, 16 or 18. Things you can do. And then these are useful inside of teams. Teams will now trade cards. They'll pick one card and operate on just that card for a week. They'll say, our theme this week is adding humor. You can see it there, add humor, right? So they look at how they're playing with humor for the week. And maybe the next week they'll go challenge but adopt, right? Your job is now to challenge people but adopt their point of view in the end. And so you can do this at a team level and management, executive level, at every level. And you don't need a manager, just get your team and just play with these cards. You can do these at home with the family. You can do this with the church. You can do this with your work. These are perfectly general, just ways to improve collaboration. You can go to collaborationcards.com or do a web search. Maybe you find the paper, you can read all about it. So the last 2 things we're going to look at, I don't have to take so much time for these, is the idea of reflect is just stop. Stop working on the product. Work on the team. This is when you work on the team. Breathe. Go inside. And it's interesting, in English, the word reflect has a tendency to refer to the past. Think about the past. That's why people do retrospectives. I never do retrospectives. I do reflection workshops because I don't want to be tied to the past. But I've learned that in France and in French, I don't know how this is in German, but the word reflect to the French people means more introspect and think about the future. Think about what you want in the future. Think about how you feel. So it's a very present state and a forward looking, and that's lovely. And then we have so much data. Go get all that data, the feedback from the deliveries. All right, so we have this pile of information. That's reflect. You just get the pile of information, look for insights, and then make some improvements, right? And I want to talk about this because in our style, in our habits these days, we try to build on what's already working. We follow, there's a section of psychotherapy called solution-focused psychotherapy that's gone into management consulting, coaching, and all these things. And in it, you only work from the present into the future. You never ask about the problems, which is why it's called solution focus. The generalization is just micro improvements. So we are just always about micro improvements. And here's a quick snapshot of it's a magical technique. You can literally apply it to anything, anywhere. It's the first thing we teach in our courses. And you start off and say, well, what are your best hopes? What would you wish? What would you actually like? Right? That comes out of the reflect. Yeah. You say, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 means nothing, and 10 means, yeah, we're there. On a scale of 1 to 10, where are you now? Okay. And some people, you're like at a 3. This is terrible. It's a 2.5. It's 3. Some people, it's pretty good. We're at a 6. We'd like it to be higher. We're on a 7 or an 8, right? Or if it's 2, we'd like it not to be a 2, right? So where are you now? Now, here's the interesting part, and here's where the solution focused thing comes in. Anything above a 1, right? Anything above flat line is already something that's working a little bit. It's an asset. I like to think these are your assets for going forward. This is what you can do more of. You can start from just repeating things that are working a little bit and see if you can make a little bit of improvement. A little bit of improvement. So I call this the delta-delta technique because you've already come some delta, big delta, but you're only trying to get a little delta forward. You're not trying to jump from a 3 to an 8. You'll be lucky if you get from 3 to 3.5. If you get to a 3.5, you'll be happy because you made some improvement. And then you can decide if you want to go to a 4. And most people, by the time they get to a 6 or something, that's not a topic for them anymore. And there's a different thing they want to work on. And then they start again. So the delta-delta technique is magical. What do you want? Scale of 1 to 10. Where are you now? It's already working. Do more of that. Ask questions about how can we get a little bit further. Right? So micro improvements. Starting to wrap this up now. And I want to do this. I want to kind of like bundle this up and to say, in the sense of the Agile Manifesto, was we value this over that. You recall, those of you who read the manifesto, is we value improving attitudes over changing structures. Success comes more from improving the attitudes of the people than from new structures. There will be some new structural stuff, mostly around the rewards. There may be some new structural stuff around the delivery pipeline. But 90% of everything I talked about is attitudes. Now, the difficulty is that executives can't buy improved attitudes. If your executive has got a 10 million euro budget, they can't go out to a product company and say, give me $10 million worth of improved attitude across my organization. It doesn't work that way because we're talking about people's brains. It's much harder for the executives because they have to be in play. They have to change themselves. They have to enter into the conversations. They have to behave a certain way. And so it's harder for an executive to say, I'm going to go on this journey with you, all of you employees. We're going to take this journey. We're going to learn how to build trust, increase trust, reduce fear, learn to converse, learn to reflect, learn to take feedback, deal with it, make micro improvements, right? But this is where success comes from. And so what I did in 2015, when I came up with these 4 words, was I said, I understand that there is nothing you can just simply purchase here. This is work to be done. I elected to go down this path because these are the things that make a difference. If you do these things, you will get better results, more efficient, more effective, ability to change, all of that, happier people, better morale. Yeah, but it takes that work, right? So I signed up for the ride. There's no easy purchase here, but prioritize attitudes over structure. How to get started? You know, people say, well, how do I get started? And I just snagged this picture off of Twitter. It's dead simple. You go to your team room, you put an X on the whiteboard or a flip chart or something. You put the 4 words up and you have people just talk about the collaboration and what's working and what's not working and ideas for improving it, and deliver and what's working and what's not working and ideas for improving it, and reflecting and what are the insights and what are the emotions and what's the data, and improvements. What's already working? What can you amplify? What are some micro changes you can make? You literally go to your room and you make this X and you start. I have a friend and colleague, Jerry Derbier, in Paris, and this is basically all he ever does. If he comes to your company, he will say, put this X up, and he'll say, let's talk about collaboration. Boom. Let's talk about delivery. Boom. Right? He'll go around this thing, and then you have all the topics you need to figure out what to do next, and you pick one. What conversation are we going to work on next? What's the next direction on our compass for making some advancement? That's it. It's so easy. Now, some other notes. We've got communities of dialogue. If you go to the website heartofagile.com, there's a thing called communities. We don't have any in Germany that I know of. I think there are some German people who've been talking about it, but you write to me or you write to Sole, and we'll help connect you guys. And if you want to start meetup groups, and you know, there's nothing to talk about here except what are we doing that works? How do we improve collaboration? What are you guys doing? How do you reduce fear? How do you deal with the rewards? How do the evaluations work? What have you changed? What have you improved? These are communities of dialogue because there's no process here to follow. There's no like, I did that. Now, I want to draw your attention to 3 words. I added 3 words, or we added 3 words. And this is for our communities. And that's in Spanish, because I was obviously giving this talk in Spanish. Here on my coffee mug, it's in English. Dialogue, openness, and humanity. And we put this on ourselves. This is not part of the Heart of Agile. The Heart of Agile is just 4 words, just 4 words. But for our communities, we added these 3 words because we wanted to keep ourselves centered into this attitudes thing. What makes these things work is attitude. Where do we anchor the attitude? It's in a sense of dialogue. It's the sense of dialoguing with openness. It's a sense of working with humanity. And that keeps us as an organization honest. And this is for our trainers, for our community leaders. This is our anchor point. Someone said, what's your vision for Heart of Agile? I said, I don't know, I don't have one. And then I told him about this, and he said, that's your vision. Your vision is to have communities that operate with dialogue, openness, and humanity. So those are the communities. And then we started an academy. You don't get a certificate in, like certified Heart of Agile master or something. They're called micro certificates these days. And so the question is, how could you improve your general skills in collaboration? Well, you might take a workshop on collaboration cards, clear language, host leadership, let's planning, how to give criticism, how to receive criticism, how to be a facilitator. There are all kinds of courses in the world that will help you or you and your team to become better at this collaboration thing. Inside of delivery, there's stuff about Carpaccio, Kanban, validated learning, agile product management, etc. Inside of reflect, the solution focus, again, clean language, running reflection workshop, facilitation, and there's other courses. So the academy is there to hold half-day to 2-day workshops on skills development in lots of different ways so that you can become, guess what, more effective. So that's the academy. And then this is pretty much my final slide. And I guess I would say if you screen snapshot only one slide out of the whole thing, it would be this one, because this has got little bits of advice that we think are good starter advice. To improve the quality of collaboration, the first thing is to increase the quality of listening. Get people to listen with a generosity, a belief that the other person has something valuable to contribute. And when they believe the other person has something of value to contribute, then the other person is more likely to actually contribute something of value. And now you've got the ideas moving inside the organization, increased trust, reduced fear, et cetera, et cetera. So increase the quality of listening, deliver something small and soon. Pause, check your data and emotion, and go for small changes. Start with the small changes and see where you go from there. So, okay, that's the Heart of Agile, the 4 words: collaborate, deliver, reflect, improve, heartofagile.com. And I think with that I can stop my screen share and come back to you guys and see where you want to go at this point. There may be some questions in the chat, or maybe you have a microphone in the room. I will let, maybe does one of the organizers want to facilitate this, or shall I just pick up like Wolfgang? He'll put his hand up first, and then Matthias Kuchum. What do you guys organizers want to do?
You have time for some questions now?
So Wolfgang, why don't you go for it?
Oh. Just wanted to applaud you. Great talk. Really enjoyed it. Yeah, leave it there. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Mm-hmm. And then Matthias, you had your hand up?
That was just a clap. Thanks.
Oh, thank you. I thought you had a question. But we do have some times, if you are remote, you could put it in the chat if you're in the audience. Maybe you could ask a question, anything personal, you know, one of these ask me anything type moments.
Are there any questions here? Yeah.
Hi, so you spoke about the book from Jeff Sutherland.
Yeah.
Are you still in contact with him?
Oh, I've never done anything with Jeff.
Okay, because
I met him in 2001 in the room, and I met him in 2011 in a reunion, and otherwise I see him online, I see his pictures, I see his talks, but I don't know. I've never done any work with him.
Okay, because my question would have been if you know what he thinks about this book, or especially about the title years after he wrote it.
I have been told that in his talks he doesn't say it anymore, but he leaves the book out for sale.
Okay, thanks.
I don't think I'll say anymore.
Yes. One more.
Hi, Alistair.
So by the way, just for fun, I have a tendency to warp the minds of the people that I work with, right? Because I have this view. And there was a guy who had been working with me for some time, and he went to take a CSM class, and he chose to take it from, he was in France, and he chose to take it from Jeff Sutherland when Jeff was passing through. And I said, why do you want to take a course from Jeff Sutherland? And he said, because he's the opposite of you, and I want to see what the opposite presentation of this is. So there you go.
Hi, Alistair. Quick question. What are your thoughts on the modern agile principles by, I forgot his name.
Joshua Karievsky.
Joshua Karievsky, that's it.
Yeah, that's great. And that came out shortly after Heart of Agile. And for a while, you know, there was some kind of competition going on. But as far as I was concerned, that was all stopped when one of our guys in the Heart of Agile saw somebody about having a, you know, kind of a slam down between the two, you know, at a bar. And he got really upset. And he said, these are two Sherpas helping people up the same mountain. And with that phrase, boom, right? As far as I was concerned, that stopped all the noise, right? You can't go wrong. You can't go wrong with Joshua's things. You take his, take mine, add them, do them both, mix and match. You can't go wrong. They're just really good. Oh, I will tell you one more thing, and I don't mean this to be, you know, against Jeff Sutherland, because he's super smart and knows everything, and he's changed the world and all that stuff. But somebody who had worked with him for a while came and visited me for a weekend, and you know, so he knew all of Jeff's stuff. He'd been there and he'd been indoctrinated and all of that. And I was telling him my stories, you know, and I've got these executives and I'm talking about rewards and contribution and collaboration and, you know, heart shit about people and emotions. And he said, I'm just confused. Sorry, I've just been, you know, used to working with Jeff, and Jeff anchors everything with stakeholders and stakeholder value. You haven't mentioned stakeholder value once this whole time. Why do the executives even stay in the room with you? And I said, oh, that's interesting. Well, because I treat them like people. And I talk to them about what's on their minds and what their life is like. And they kind of like that. And then they stick around. And then they start treating each other like people. Now we have a whole room full of people. And they like it. And they stick around. So that's like the antithesis, you know, like that's the whole of my modus operandi, is to help people feel like people, whole humans in their setting, and then they can be people together, right? And then it's interesting. And then actually in my class, and I know I'm getting to the end of my time a little bit, in one of my classes I did like, what's the benefits of Agile? And I was all thinking about, you know, increased efficiency, effectiveness, da-da-da-da-da-da. And the bulk of the people in the class said improved morale in the organization. And it took me actually, and this was recent, this was like last year, right? This is not a long, this was last year. And I realized that if Agile made absolutely no efficiency benefit whatsoever, if it was exactly the same as before, but we improved morale in the organization, it's already a win. Right there, we're done. Now, it happens, you also will get, you know, better financial results, quicker change, more efficient, blah, 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 blah. But literally, it was interesting and surprising to me that literally having better morale, if nothing else got better, would be sufficient. I wanted to mention that. Thank you. Are we out of time? I think I have here that it's 7:40 in Germany. So it probably is about at the end of the time slot that we have.
Time is over, but if there are some more questions, we could take them. What's with the remote participants? Do you have some more questions?
Well, if not, I can just tell you that I wish you all lots. Oh, I will use my last minute to say I haven't been in Germany professionally since literally 2011. And I went to I don't know if it was an Agile conference or a Scrum conference, but they were talking about the role of the Scrum Master. And what really impressed me was how advanced was the social conversation about the role of the Scrum Master. Really, it was not somebody who was doing sort of mechanical removing of impediments. Really, the discussion was around the Scrum Master as kind of a coach, psychotherapist, family therapist, and the job and the training and the continuing education of the Scrum Master would be to learn about people and their emotions and how to work with them. And I just thought that was so impressive in 2011 that Germany was ahead of the rest of the world in understanding this. And I don't know where you guys are now, but I wanted to pass that little observation along and just wish you lots of luck as you go on. Okay? Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Alistair.